punch my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 42nd year of the award at the 46th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1973. Today's guest is a good friend of mine. If you've read her reviews and interviews on discussing film, you know her as Beatrine Shahzad, but I know her as my lovely friend Bean. So, hello, Bean.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm ready to discuss some short films.
That's great to hear. Before we get into that, tell us, what is your familiarity with the Best Animated Short category?
Like, with the category, I
As a
mean,
whole, yeah.
it is what it sounds like. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I usually only see a nominee if it's one of the shorts that play before a Disney movie.
Yeah.
And they are usually I've cried during some of them. They're so memorable to me, but I usually don't like expand my taste beyond that. So this was an experiment in that. So yeah. But I've seen quite a few Disney shorts and also some of the old ones. You know how they used to have like Disney shorts
Yes,
from like
I do know.
the 40s?
Yeah, when they had...
I've seen some of those because
had...
my mom brought them up. She'd be like, I remember these shorts from my childhood that they played on TV. Let's watch them. Thank God for Disney Plus. But yeah.
Yeah, the old Disney shorts, Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, things like that. It's a very common story for people I have on this podcast. It's just they've only ever seen the Disney ones, or maybe a few older Disney ones, but outside of that, like that's all people know. But that's great. The whole point of this is to be, an educational experience. And it's, well, I guess mainly entertainment, but after that, education. But yeah, let's get into these nominees then. This year has 3. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Frank Film, directed by Frank and Carolyn Morris. This is the first and only nomination and win for Frank Morris, and we have yet another instance of a film clearly having a prevailing female collaborator, yet the Oscar nomination doesn't reflect her involvement. First, there's Faith Hubley, then Joy Batchelor, and now Carolyn Morris. But moving beyond that, Frank and Carolyn are collagists by trade, and have been married since 1966 and were collaborators before even that, constantly collecting images from magazines and such for their work. Frank Film specifically containing 11,592 different images within it. They got their start at Yale, making a few collage films while they were in grad school that helped them hone their craft. And I even found a mention of Frank having the opportunity to work with Richard Williams briefly, the British animator who won this award last year for A Christmas Carol, with Frank citing The Little Island as an inspiration. Beyond that, like many other animators we talk about on this podcast at this time, Frank and Carolyn made segments for Sesame Street, but have also worked with the likes of Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, MTV, and Cartoon Network, though I can't find much on what their specific contributions were. I also must mention that both Frank and Carolyn are still alive. Frank turned 78 last September, and I can't find anything about Caroline's age, but still happy for them. And I'm loving this streak of at least one nominee being alive, but my fear grows that someone is going to end up dying between when I record this episode and when it is actually aired. Anyway, this also makes Frank Morris the earliest surviving winner in this category. But onto the film at hand. Frank Film, its Oscar win, isn't its only honor, as it was also inducted into the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 1996, the second nominee or winner in this category to receive that honor after Gerald McBoing Boing in 1995, and as of this recording is one of only 12 nominees to have ever been inducted. So what's all the hubbub about? Frank film is a barrage on sight and sound. The 11,000 images mentioned earlier appear rapid fire, while there are two narration tracks by Frank Morris, one talking about his life and thoughts, and the other him is just saying seemingly random words, though sometimes they line up with the images we're seeing. It's definitely one of the more experimental Oscar winners. Bean, start us off. What did you think of Frank film?
Strike number one, he went to Yale. No respect for Ivy League graduates.
That's
number one strike.
That is a surprisingly common thing. Like I'm finding out a lot of these people like were nominated, like they went to animation programs at like Harvard or Yale, and it's just like I didn't know those places had animation schools. I thought they were just like fucking law schools or whatever.
Yeah, and then if it's a common theme, then obviously there are networks there that help them get the exposure they need to win.
Mm-hmm.
Which
yeah, it's like a lot of the
whatever.
previous winners like are teaching at like Harvard and Yale and stuff. So it's just like, yeah, they have a line. They can get those connections.
Whatever.
But what do you
Frank
think of the film?
Okay. At first, it reminded me of like either something I read or something I watched online that impacted me way more than the film did. See, that's it. Okay, to be honest, I watched this approximately 30 minutes before we recorded this. And in that 30 minutes, I was there sitting at my desk thinking so hard of what this reminded me of, and I can't remember. But it was because like the entire like premise is like he takes pictures of stuff he likes. Just anything he likes, it's like an experiment, and then he puts them all in the film. And it like it was like something I read online that was like the weirdest stuff is like what we like stick with us. Like if you only had one thing you would like keep track of throughout the day, it would be so weird what we find meaningful and what we remember. And the fact that he had this idea in his hand and did nothing with it, like just eventually frustrated me, I think, because it was giving very much. I said this in my Letterboxd review that it was giving a MoMA exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, it was. Like, that's a room that you go in a MoMA and they're just playing images and talking about his life. And I get like that's the point, but also it's frustrating. It's a little bit frustrating because I think, okay, I'm gonna bring up Ursula Le Guin. You know me.
Yeah. Like we talked before this about like you were going to bring up Ryan Gosling, but no, Ursula Le Guin. They can also bring her
That's
up.
the problem. Like, here's the problem. Every time I try to like analyze anything or like defer to someone smarter than me, I'm like, oh my god, I read an Ursula Le Guin essay about this. I read an Ursula Le Guin blog post about this. That's when you know it's over, when I start citing Ursula Le Guin. But one of my favorite essays she's ever written is about like what it means to be a writer and like where ideas come from. And in that, she talks about the young writer or like the juvenile artist. And she talks about lack of experience and if you need experience to be a writer, because a lot of young writers, they will like do coke in the Bahamas to like gain the experience to like what they think it means to be a writer, like gain all this life experience so then they can then access that life experience to make great art. And she's like, that's not necessarily necessary because like think of the Bronte sisters. The Bronte sisters, like they didn't do anything. They like stayed in a house all day and just were crazy, but you know, they made some of the best literature of all time. And she's like, the reason that is because young people, they don't have the context to take the feeling, like they have a ton of experience, like they have their childhood and they know what feelings are, but they don't have the context to like create art around it and conceptualize it and really process what they went through. And this kind of film, the Frank film, was like about that. He was like, I have all these images. This is my life, but I don't know what to do with it. This is just the beginning. And it's like, great. That tells me nothing. That tells me nothing. Like, I know. I've been to like, okay, I'm like 25 now. Like, I've been in my early 20s. Like, I know that's how you feel. But like, this is the age where you take that art and you do something with it. This is where you like figure out why those photos were appealing to you, what was interesting to them about you. And this is when you try to create great art from the experiences you have. This is the age where you start to conceptualize and start to like, you know, do something with it. I think I forgot what she called it exactly, but in her like essay she called it something like the autobiographical debut novel. Like the young author writes the autobiographical debut novel because they can't contextualize their experience. So all they do is write exactly what happened to them. And that's literally what I almost called him Frank Miller. I'm sorry. Frank Morris. That's exactly what Frank Morris did. It's embarrassing. And he won an Oscar?
Yes, this is the winner.
Okay, I don't want to be mean because I perfectly got what he was saying and I liked watching it. And I'm sure if I saw it in the MoMA, I'd have a fine time. I'd probably walk out a minute in. But like, I don't think this is a great piece of art worthy of like dissection and analysis because you get the point in the first 5 minutes or the first 2 minutes. And then on top of that, any 20-year-old can make this, honestly. And then on top of that, I don't know. At least it was fun to watch. I liked the animation itself. But like that's it. I got all my thoughts and feelings out. Sorry.
The one thing I would say, I don't think any 20-year-old can make this. Like there's a lot of work that I would have had to gone into actually crafting this.
Okay, all right. Okay, not any 20-year-old could like physically make the product, but
they
any
probably had
20-year-old
similar
could
ideas.
like actualize the thought, you know?
Mhm.
Could be like, I'm going to make a short film about this. And if they had the resources and the artistic talent, they could have made it. But it's not saying anything that a 20-year-old hasn't thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't allow
get
you
it.
to connect to something that you've never felt before, which
Yeah.
usually art is supposed to do. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I definitely get that. Although it's like my main thoughts were a lot less dense than that, I guess, because a lot of it was just like trying to like my feelings on just the experience itself, like the visual and audio experience of watching this is where it's just like you have the whole barrage of images is it's just like there's like 100 images per second. I feels like at least and it's just like with the two narration tracks on there, it becomes a bit overwhelming just experiencing this. And it's like I wish I kind of had the opportunity to like separate the narration tracks at least because like having both of those at the same time was very very overstimulating, I guess. It's just like just trying to pay attention to both of them just didn't made me uncomfortable a little bit. And it's just like, and I agree with you. I love like the visuals of it. I think just like the whole collection of images, just doing that, like that was fantastic. Like I loved looking at it, but also it's like I feel like I would have liked this a lot more without either of the narration tracks. If it was just some music that matched the visuals a little bit, I think I would have loved this a lot more because it's just very interestingly animated. Like I haven't seen many films like this, but I feel like there probably are a lot of films like this. I just haven't seen them. They're made in like film schools or whatever, and never get any kind of big distribution. So, which makes sense. This guy just came out of college probably, and from what I read, this is like heavily based on stuff he did make at Yale. It's just like expansion of previous things he's made. And so what I'm saying is I thought it looked very pretty, but the two narrations didn't really kind of hurt it, but also didn't add much to it, in my opinion. And it's like I still really like this. I think I like this more than you did, but still, I used to love this, and I don't really love it anymore. Is the thing, which is kind of disappointing. Which I think might be it might be part of just like subconsciously kind of what you're saying, how it's very simple in its theming. And I remember the first time I'd seen this, like I thought the simplicity in its theming was a good thing about it. Like it was something that would be very good for like an introduction to film class, where it's just like you have the students who've never analyzed anything in their life before just look at this and it's like, what is this saying? Most of them, if they just give it a little bit of effort, can probably dissect it a little bit, find out what it's saying, even though it may at first seem a bit obtuse, I guess is the word I might be looking for. But yeah, it's very easy to dissect. But I guess that doesn't help with repeat viewings because it's like it's a bit surface level. But yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Honestly, What?
I just I didn't expect that reaction.
I told you I just say that when I have nothing to say. It's my supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I mean, okay, I'm trying to collect my thoughts. Because first you were talking about like the 2 tracks, and you were like, oh,
Yeah.
that
What did you think
distracted
of the
me.
2 tracks?
I'm going to preface by saying right now, my TikTok For You page is all slime videos on top of clips from Young Sheldon with music in the background. It honestly did not distract me at all. I could follow both. So, I was fine with it. It took me a little while to get used to, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, but I was like, okay, we're doing this. And then I was fine.
I guess you could just kind of live like that anyway with your watching movies and listening to audiobooks at like 2.25 speed.
Okay, maybe. It's not even only that. I have to be okay, this is how I watch movies. It's gonna upset a lot of people. Get
Yeah,
your frustrations
I,
out
I,
in the comments.
I
Just
did
boost this algorithm.
I did mention it just so people can get mad because it makes me mad just whenever I remember it.
Okay, so I watch movies. I have a Google Chrome extension that lets me watch movies double speed. And then I'm on my laptop. I split the laptop screen. So on one half of the laptop, I have my movie at double speed. On the other half of my laptop, I have 2048. And that is my optimal movie going experience. That's how I focus the best. Um, People get mad at me if you wish, but I will tell you one thing. I can still you might think my like what's it called? Attention span is shot. I can still go in a theater and have a completely immersive experience and still enjoy a movie at single speed, okay? In a theater. I feel like we all at home have issues and don't respect the sanctity of film. I know you people watch movies high, you watch movies drunk, you watch them with your friends and make commentary. Okay, that's not respecting the sanctity of movies. We all have things that we do, okay? This just happens to be mine. And this what works for me, and it's a tool in my tool belt to let me watch more movies in my life than you probably will, unless you're my co-host.
Thank you. Uh, I'm just remembering the one time like you posted a clip from an audiobook or something. It just like you were reacting to whatever was saying, but no one could understand what the audiobook
I
was
was
saying.
okay. I was kind of shocked because I thought everyone was getting mad at me and I didn't understand why. I was like, yeah, I listened to it fast, but like, can you respond? And they're like, girl, we can't understand what it's saying. And I was like, oh, I got like bodied. It was so embarrassing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fine. I think I just have a natural rhythm higher than most people because I can only listen to songs above a certain beat per minute too. I can't listen to slow songs.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes I look up like the sped up TikTok audios and listen to them. This has nothing to do with the film, by the way.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't.
for record, I watched Frank film single speed, okay?
Yeah,
And I also watched all episodes of Succession single speed. But we're not going to talk about Succession now. I just want to say that I respect Succession more than I do most forms of media.
I'm actually
Okay?
surprised you watch Succession normal speed because that is a show I feel like you could probably speed up. Because
Yeah, but I put it on my TV. I give it the respect it deserves.
okay. Uh,
Anyways.
you said before you were going to respond to multiple things I said, but I forgot
Oh
everything I
yeah,
said
okay.
before.
You said the multiple tracks thing. Um, you said something about showing it in film schools.
Yeah, because it's like a simple theming thing,
I
and
don't
it's
know,
just like
but
it
what'd
could
you
be,
say before that?
uh I think it
I,
was just about like how on the first time I watched it, like I appreciate it for that simple theming, and then it's just like on the rewatch, it didn't hold up well. I think because of that simple theming, it just there
yeah.
isn't much to dissect there.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there isn't really anything to dissect because he tells you what the thing is about.
True.
Like, I he says it point blank. If you can't like, isn't there like discourse online about some professor saying that someone should be a film student? Like, if you go into that film and you can't get the point of it, change your major. Like
Yeah,
I'm dead serious.
yeah, there was discord about Kelly Reichardt, but Kelly Reichardt, famous director of movies, Old Joy and things like that. She teaches film classes sometimes, and there's like a Rate My Professor review saying that she told a student to like drop out or whatever, that they shouldn't be a film student, and like they rated her harshly because of that. And it's like a lot of people were like, "Wow, why would you tell a student that?" But a lot of people are like, "No, people should be told that because if they become a filmmaker, despite being told that, then maybe they should be a filmmaker, but also." Like, so everyone should be told that, some people are saying.
No. See, I don't agree with that. It's like the people who are like, they sympathize with J.K. Simmons' character at the end of Whiplash. I'm like, no one should go through abuse or being told mean things to make them a better artist. I think we should support artists, and I don't think it's necessary to be dissuaded to get through. But
Some people do need to be told that they shouldn't be.
I think there are some people who perhaps shouldn't become artists because they don't know that this isn't the path for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to make that distinction because art is so subjective. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're just like people, like there will be mean people who say that just because they don't find the value in what you do, but there is value in what you do. And I know I'm being hypocritical here because I just said
You don't value a lot of media.
I don't. No, that's not what I said.
You don't give a lot of media the respect it deserves.
First of all,
that's what you said.
No, I didn't. That was a joke. Okay, ha, comma, ha, ha, laughing.
Okay,
Second of all, I said it's not a okay. I just made this whatever. I wanted to put this section on a pedestal. What was I even talking about?
We were talking about
okay, we were talking about
film,
telling
people
and film students.
Yeah, film students.
I think there is joy to be had in film, but I think what I'm hearing from a lot of film students that people go in not for the joy of film, but because they want to make blockbusters. And I think that's a bad reason to be in film school. I think it has to do with the reasons to be a person. I almost wrote this article once about the difference between writing and being a writer. And it's all about intention. And I think that's the difference between people who want to make film and people who are just like film students. It's like the intention, like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to be here? And if you're not like making film for the right reasons, maybe you shouldn't be a film student. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like there's some people who enjoy watching movies think they want to be a filmmaker just because they like movies, but they don't have that like creative drive or something, like the creative instinct. And it's just like,
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm
listen.
That's what I'm saying.
I think okay, then we're gonna discourse. I personally think creative instinct can be learned. Okay. There are some people who say if you don't have the sauce, you don't have the sauce. But I personally believe you can learn the sauce. You can learn the sauce through studying the sauce if you have a genuine love for the sauce. But if you don't have a taste for this, like if you don't like the sauce and you don't have that appreciation, you will never be able to learn it. Like true appreciation.
And too many
like not
cooks will spoil
casual
the broth.
appreciation, but like too much like, you know what I mean? Like there's one thing to be a passive viewer of cinema and another thing to be an active viewer of cinema. And if you're just a passive viewer, that's all you'll ever be. You need to be an active viewer of cinema to be able to learn from cinema to eventually make your own thing. It's not even about like creative drive because I think that can be learned.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just you talk at 2.5 times speed. It's a lot at once, just trying to understand everything you're saying.
I'm sorry. Oh my god,
No,
your poor
you don't
listeners
need
are gonna have
apologies.
to put this on half speed.
I think that is a feature on Spotify and stuff. This is put on Spotify, so I think they'll be fine. Right.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to say about Frank film?
No, I don't think so. I got it all out of my system. I just want to remind people that people who go to Ivy League universities don't deserve rights. If you went to an Ivy League, give me your money, okay? Let's go.
You're like
Continue.
the chef in the menu who's just like, "What school did you go to? Brown. Do you have any student loans? No. Oh, you deserve to be here." Did you watch
Well,
the menu?
I did not watch the menu, but also if you make under a certain amount, if you go to any Ivy, it's a full ride. So I don't know what that was about. The person who wrote the menu obviously did not do their homework.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm just gonna say I went to Berkeley. Okay, this is where this rivalry comes from. Okay, okay, anyways, continue.
Okay. Hey, I'm just pausing for a moment so people can shame her for going to Berkeley, and then we'll move on.
No, Berkeley is like that's like the trenches.
I don't
Like
know anything about colleges. I just went to a state university.
going to well, technically Berkeley's a public university. Which is why there's so many people there.
Yeah, but it's
And
California, so
why
it's different.
yeah, it's like a nice public university, but it's still okay. It's a nice public university, like the quality of education is good, but it still has like the misgivings of a public university. You know, like there's too many students, like the way the entire thing run is just like doesn't make any sense. They're in like thousands of dollars of debt. I'm not gonna go into this whole tangent, but like, and plus it's in one of the more unsafe areas. I feel like a lot of colleges are in unsafe areas, but it's not like, but like UCLA is like literally in like Beverly Hills where like rich people live. And like in Berkeley, it's just like you have to learn to fight, okay? You have to learn to like watch your back, both walking down the street and in classes because it has like this, like, it's known for being very competitive and being very difficult. And you have to struggle to survive there. And not Ivy Leagues. I feel like Ivy Leagues, whatever. Like I had to deal with grade deflation. I lived in the dorms for like 4 years. Do you know what they feed you there?
What do they feed you
Whatever.
there?
They feed you food and most of it is edible. But then I see what people who go to Ivies get. I feel some sort of way. Dude, I know no diss to her, but I was talking to her and she was writing something that takes place in Berkeley because I'm like proofreading it, right? And I'm telling her like what actually happened at Berkeley. And I was like, she went to an Ivy League, by the way. And I was like, why is everyone in a single? Berkeley's in a housing crisis. Some people are like 4 to a room. And she's like, because I had a single. It was common. I was like, what the hell? You've got to be kidding me. Anyways.
Our second nominee is The Legend of John Henry, directed by Sam Weiss. This is the second nomination and final nomination for Nick Basustel, last discussed in the pod, having won for Is It Right to Be Right from 1970. This is also the first and only nomination in this category for David Adams. I'm moving right past David because Nick Basustel is the interesting person here. I'm sorry to David, but I can't find anything about you. A recap for those who didn't listen to the last episode. Nick is the son of famed UPA producer Steven Busustow, and Nick became a lead producer at Steven Busustow Productions. I'm kicking myself for not discovering this detail about Is It Right to Be Right for that last episode, but apparently Nick never had the chance to meet Orson Welles, who narrated that film. He just sent Orson a script, he recorded the voiceover, and all he wanted in return was not money, but illegal Cuban cigars, which they got for him. Anyway, Nick and Steven chugged along at Basusstow Productions, making films like Today's Nominee and the film adaptation of The Giving Tree up until 1981, when Steven Basusstow passed away at the age of 69. It's not long after that Nick shuts down the whole studio and pretty much retires from filmmaking. He went on to join the Peace Corps in 1999. He lived a pretty quiet life after that, and sadly, Nick Basusstow passed away on November 19th, 2022, less than 6 months before this episode comes out. According to his memorial page, his last words were, "Just like a Hollywood movie," and he will be missed. But now let's go back to 1973 and talk about The Legend of John Henry. Nick had made his other Basusstow Productions films alongside his father, even if Steven never got a credit on those films. The Legend of John Henry was the first one where he had full grip on the reins. Also, it wasn't being adapted from a specific book, and so had no real source material to base the images off of, and no demanding authors being picky over how they animated certain scenes, unlike Silverstein when they made The Giving Tree. So for once, Nick and the artists on this film were allowed to be creative with their imagery and have all the freedom that artists yearn for. So combining this with the voice of legendary Roberta Flack gives us our film. And when Nick showed it to his dad, he told him he did a good job. So let's all take a look at this good job. The Legend of John Henry is, of course, based on the American folktale about John Henry, the steel-driving man. He is the fastest and strongest man working on the railroad, and no man can match him. One day, the railroad meets a mountain, and the only option is to tunnel through it. John Henry gets to work, but even he can't tunnel fast enough for the boss's liking, so he hires a steam drill to do the work instead. John Henry sets out to complete the tunnel before the steam drill can do it, all by himself, though his wife Polly Ann fears the race might kill him. Before I get into this, Bean, how familiar are you with the folktale of John Henry?
I had like inklings of it from my childhood. Like I know I definitely learned it in school. And also I watched the Disney short, John Henry short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sadly not nominated in this category, though there is another John Henry nominated.
I watched it. It was a couple years ago. Like it was pretty recent. It was like
Was it on the collection of Disney shorts that they released? I remember it was there was like a Blu-ray or whatever that had a bunch of Disney shorts, including that one.
Okay. I was in the Disney Club when I was in college, and we did a scavenger hunt, and I won said scavenger hunt, and we were the first team back, and so they just threw on John Henry. I can't tell you more than that.
Okay.
I sat down and watched it while I was sweating and panting and breathing hard, but victorious.
All right. So anyway, going back to the short we're watching today. So I'm a big fan of the folktale. I think it's a very powerful story, and it's just like unlike other like American folktales, like Johnny fucking Appleseed or something. Like John Henry feels like an actual character, an actual person. He's not just like, oh golly gee, I'm going to do manifest destiny everywhere. And it's just like he's a person who has like an actual struggle, something to overcome, and it's just like, and it's a story I feel like that just is very evergreen, I guess, where it's just like it's about the struggle against technology, the struggle to just like earn your place in the world, or like prove to other people that you deserve to do what you please or whatever. And it's just like it's a very emotionally potent story, I think. And I think this version does an incredibly good job of portraying that. Like first with Roberta Flack singing the song. She has such an amazing voice, and this music is just so it's just a perfect music, perfect backing track for this film. And then I love the way that the animation like works with the music, how it's like you can hear like the hammering of the nails on the railroad and stuff, and like it's in the music, and the film, the images sync up with it. It's just it all blends together so beautifully. I love the style of it. It has just like the way it's paced, and I I have nothing but kind things to say about this, and I know you're going to be less kind about it, so I'm just going to let you go now, so you can get another perspective. What
I'm
you
so
think?
sorry what I'm about to do.
Go ahead, I can take it. I've heard worse things.
Okay, I'll start with what I liked. Okay?
Okay.
I like the disco lights. I was like, yes, this feels very 70s. I like the song. I like Roberta's voice. I like that they chose to do a song like this to it. I thought that was a very smart decision. Comma but. Because I was like thinking of why your perception differs so much from mine when coming to this thing. Because when I was watching it, I was like pissed off. And now I realized why. Because you talk about like how he's like such a human character, and then like he's trying to like prove himself and stuff. But the thing is, the way the short is set up is that everything is being narrated to us, and they're just silhouettes. Like it's like the outline of a story, and we're watching from afar. So it's hard to get a grasp of God, what's his name? Is it Johnny?
John Henry?
Yeah, John Henry. I was thinking Johnny Apple. You said Johnny Appleseed, and I got all confused. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so John Henry. So I feel like it's hard to have him. He doesn't have the way the short itself is arranged makes it difficult for him to have ambition as a character. And I think the idea of just people making a worker, especially a black worker, think that they have to meet a certain standard and their only worth is what they can produce. And seeing that as an outsider rather than seeing his own personal desire to prove himself, I think those are two very different things. And I think that the way that the short is like made kind of leans onto the like why are you listening to this pressure? Like, it's more of an outsider view than an insider view. So I think I was looking at it more from like the outside angle of like how people were like pressuring him or not even pressuring him. I was just kind of like, why do you feel like you have to prove yourself to these people? Like, be angry. Like, why do you feel you have to prove yourself to like this steam drill? Like, because that's all I see. I see them being like, tunnel through it, steam drill. This is so hard for me to vocalize. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that was it. I think just the way it was set up, just kind of like as a story, and we don't get very much insight, just makes it hard to see like that side of it. Like, oh, he has to prove yourself. Because like, dude, why do you have to prove yourself against the steam drill? I don't even remember the Disney version that well, but I feel like that one, at least in that one, I felt more empathy for him. Like you could like feel his fear, like what the steam drill represented and stuff. And you could like empathize with the decision better. But like here, like even his wife and his kid knew it was a bad idea. Like everyone knew it was a bad idea, and he was just like, "No, I have to prove it to all of you." Which just I wasn't on his side. I can tell you that much. Um, yes. It was gonna get a 3.5 from me, and then except for one part, because at the end when he falls down, he like falls down and he dies, and then his outline for a second looks like the mountain. I was like, oh my god, that's so smart and clever, like showing like how like his ambition to get through this thing is what killed him, like visually. And then it goes back to him, and then it like flashes different colors. And then I was like, did I imagine that? Is that really what I was supposed to walk away with? And then I wasn't sure, and then I was doubting myself, and then I got upset. And that's why I rated it 3 stars.
Okay. I'm not even sure what to say.
I'm sorry.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. I knew I was gonna say
like,
some bad shit stuff.
Like a lot of my whole thing about this is just like I feel like this is a story anyone can relate to, but then you're just like, yeah, I don't relate to it. I don't understand. And it's just like
yeah, that's like, listen, I like the Disney version better because I told you I could understand the motivations better, but I feel like we were such the narration was so detached. It felt hard to get what you got from it. At least for me.
I think the whole point of like these folk tales, like they're always told as like stories of like these grand figures and whatever, and it's just like we have to put our own like perception on them, like our own meaning behind them. Like we don't know John Henry's internal monologue because he's been long dead and whatever. I think it's debated whether he was actually a real person. I think he was, maybe. I'm not sure, but it's like we put our own reasoning on these stories. It's just like yeah, it's just like about the personal interpretation, like what it means to you and all of that. So I guess if it just didn't grab you enough, it's just like you don't have to push to do that.
It's also the artist's responsibility or job to convey their interpretation.
Not necessarily. Like a lot of about it is about like audience interpretation. Like that is kind of the ultimate like point of, well, not the ultimate point of art. Oh, it's like a lot of art can be created just to be created, but also art can be made to be interpreted.
Well, do you think that this was made to be ambiguous? Like this specific short?
I think it was made to tell the story and let you take your own moral from it. Like it wasn't meant to like, because like one of the reasons I love John Henry is because he is both like very like his story is both very like heroic but also very foolish. It's just like you can take both sides on that. Or it's just like because he like, was it a foolish for him to like like because like you admire like, or not you personally, but like a general you admire like, oh, he did beat the steam drill, but was it even worth it if he just dies at the end? Because like so it's just like you could take it either way or take it both at once. And it's just like so it's a lot of just like how one person, the viewer, feels about the story.
Well, the thing with like fables and folktales is that they teach a lesson. And a lesson is always going to be don't fight the steam drill, you're going to lose to the steam drill. But if you just tell that story, if that's just if it's like 5 words on a page, John Henry, like John Henry was a good worker. One day they brought a steam drill in. He thought he could do the job with the steam drill. He raced the steam drill. He lost. That's a story.
Well, he
That teaches
won,
a lesson.
but he
Well, he
died.
won. He won. He died. That's a story. It tells the story. It tells a lesson. But like, you really feel the bare minimum for everyone involved. You don't know who John Henry is. You don't know why he felt the need to like fight the steam drill. It definitely, you can't just tell a story. There has to be some sort of spin on it to make you empathize with people and tell things a certain way. This is also the subject of an Ursula Le Guin blog post, but I will not I will not go into that at this moment. So I think it's worth debating how well they accomplished their goal. If they wanted to make John Henry a tragic figure, then there are things they could have done to make him more of a figure people were able to empathize with. Because I'm not going to see this guy who decided to fight a steam drill and then die and be like, wow, that's so sad, because he was like also dumb. So kind of like the artist has to pick a side a little bit.
Okay.
Because otherwise, you're just K-ing me.
I just don't know what to say.
Fight back.
I'm open to other people's opinions. I don't want to tell you. I'm not going to say you're wrong because you're not wrong. It's like about art. Art is up to interpretation. It's like it's about opinions in different interpretations. So it's just like it's not a wrong opinion to have. It's
Fight
just
back.
different from mine.
Defend yourself.
And I'm hosting a
Stand your
podcast.
ground.
I want you to have a good time.
You watch this and you empathize so much with John Henry, but you're not even gonna fight your ground against a steam drill. I see how it is.
So like one of the many interpretations you could take from this is also about like it's a warning against like the threat of automation and stuff, and it's just like it's kind of about how almost futile it is, and and that's kind of what you're saying. It is like a futile fight in to start with, and that is one of the like main points of the story, and that's another reason why I think it is so everlasting and why it is so constantly like relevant, is because we always find ourselves fighting against technology. And it's just like, and like before it was like automation, and nowadays we have talks about like AI stuff, like AI art and all that. And it's just like we both create these technologies and also want to fight against them. And it's just like, and early on it's just like, yes, we can easily beat the technology at their own game, but there comes a point when the technology becomes so good that they do surpass human uh like human labor and all that. And it's just like, what do we do then? And it's just like it's almost an inevitability like that. Whenever we set out to create technology that can do something humans do, we will keep working on that until it can surpass human talent. And it's just like, when we get to that point, what happens? And it's just like, it's scary. It's and that is probably part of why that is an interpretation as to why John Henry wants to fight the steam drill, because he fears being replaced. He doesn't know what he's going to do if the steam drill is better than him. And because like at that point he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have a life anymore, because he is John Henry, the steel driving man. He has no other life to that. So it's like, and sure, it's just like, maybe I imagine you're thinking like, oh, he should just, do something else. He doesn't have to be a steel driving man or something like that. But it's just like, it's still a very human response. You don't have to agree with them. It's just a realistic thing. It's just the way people are. So yeah,
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Definitely.
there's just a
But the
lot of
thing is,
ways, like a lot of things to talk about with this. It's a
I
very
know, I've
deep
thought,
story
okay,
with a lot of
listen,
interpretations
okay,
that you should just look into.
technology. Um, I'll start with high school economics class. And when you're in economics, you learn that more technology is better for the economy because it makes the price of labor cheaper, and then people are free to do more things, and people are free to take on more work. So the economy goes up. And so it's not a bad thing. And that's how people talk about ChatGPT. They're like, if ChatGPT becomes a thing and we're able to automate some of the more tedious things that we do, then we have more free time to do more things and it'll be better overall. We'll have better work and like we'll all get paid more, which doesn't happen, which is I understand why automation scares people. But then they blame automation and they blame technology. And I don't think that's the correct response. I think the correct response is to blame capitalism. We all knew I was coming here. Can I get some clapping from the audience?
For a second, I thought you were defending economics. I was just like, okay, but
I was
yeah,
like,
keep going.
no, because like the logic is sound. It's just not what actually happens.
Yeah.
Like when you think of like trickle down economics, like yeah, there's logic there, but that's not what actually happens in reality. Like logically, it's sound, but that's not human nature. That's not how it actually happens.
Mhm.
So I think when it comes to technology and automation and the threat of these things, technology is supposed to be an aid to the human existence. And when you're talking about John Henry's worth and he's a steel driver and all these things, you're placing worth on him and the tail places worth on him as as how he can do his work, his value as a worker and the production he brings to society as a worker. But that's not all that people are. So like assigning to him is essentially this American capitalistic idea that like what you are and how you operate in the world and your worth as a person is tied to how productive you are. And that's why the steel thing scares him. But if we don't see automation this way, and if we lived in a society where we weren't based our worth on how much we could produce or our value as a worker, then we would have no reason to be scared of automation. We would be happy that technology can do these jobs for us that we don't have to do so we can focus on other things. And so that society can improve and we can all benefit from all these great advances. I say that for things like menial labor, like farming, making coffees, like stuff that people do by hand, menial, like the same thing day after day. And I'm sure people like making coffee. I feel like, but there's a human aspect to that, you know? I don't think the act itself of just like, you know, being a steel worker, packaging Cheerios and like if we could automate that, if we could just like get to that point, then I think that most people would be happy that they don't have to do those jobs anymore. But the problem is we're forcing people to do jobs to survive, which makes it a bad thing. And then it sounds like I'm defending AI, which I do think AI does like think about stuff like I almost said IKEA manuals, but those don't have any words in them. Think about like a Crock-Pot manual. Why would you want someone to waste their day just writing instruction manuals like that? Like there's no joy in that. There's no joy human being in doing that all day. If we could automate that, I think that would be good for society overall. But like writing something like a book or drawing a piece of art, those are things that are essential to the human experience. Those are not products that are made. And that's the problem. We're seeing them as products. They're not like a book is not a product. It's a piece of art. Drawing is not a product. It's a piece of art. It's things essential to the human experience and how we shape and see the world and reflect it in the things we do. So they can never be automated. There's no reason to automate it because it's not labor. It's love. So like, I don't know, like, obviously we fear ChatGPT because we're like forced to see everything in terms of like productivity and labor and what these things are and how much they can be sold, which like the legend of John Henry just reinforces. So if we just like break free of that mindset and we think about these things and we restructure the way we think about like automation, society, and all these things, then like life would be better. It's all capitalism's fault. Okay?
But the thing is, I don't think it's reinforcing it is the thing. I think like the fact this story exists is a byproduct of like the woes of capitalism. It's like you can say the very reason why John Henry wants to fight the machine is capitalism's fault. And so that is, another interpretation you can take from this, and how it's just like John Henry died like not because of himself, but because of capitalism.
You can definitely watch it that way. Like that is the story you can get out of it, but like how do I say this? It's the initial framing when you start the story and you're like, he was only as good. I don't know. Because I definitely get what you're saying, because you can read it that way. Like, but I don't think that's what most people walk away with. And I think that it would take like thought and explanation, because when you show it to a kid and you're going to say, Henry's only job, because this is a story for children. Henry's only job was as a
Not
steel
really.
worker.
It's a story for everyone.
Okay, let's be for real right now. Folk tales, fables are meant to be stories for children. That's why you learn them.
You
when
are
you're a
equating
kid.
folktales and fables, and those are very different things. It's like this is American folktale. It's meant to be a story of the American experience. It's meant to American identity and all that. It's meant to be something for all Americans, not just something you tell kids when they go to sleep at night. It's
Um, I suppose I'm not gonna fight you on it, but I'm just gonna say, as my lived experience as an adult, people don't bring up folk tales in their day to day.
true.
So it's
But
hard to like, what's the word? Connect it to the adult experience when it has very little bearing on my adult experience. And if I went up to a random adult in the street and be like, "Do you remember the Legend of John Henry?" They will not remember. When kids will probably know because they learn it in school.
okay.
So it's not like the story. Well, maybe the story sticks with some people, but
I feel like it does stick with a lot of people. It is a story that has survived generation after generation. Like there's still like adaptations of this being made. And I personally think there should be more. It's just like there isn't that many. And I feel like the story is something that has it's ripe for expansion upon. I feel like you can and make, a new movie of this. You can make a feature film adaptation of John Henry. You can apply it to the modern day. You can do a lot of things with this material that I feel like hasn't been done.
John
And it's
Henry and
such a shame.
ChatGPT.
Just please stop.
No. But that's the thing. If you want to make an adaptation like that, you got to pick a side. This short did not pick a side.
It just told the tale of John Henry, and it told it very well, in my opinion.
All right. That's your opinion, which I will respect, even if I do not hold it.
Thank you.
I can't believe I went on an entire automation tangent and talked for like 20 minutes, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, because
But
I'm
it
letting
can't
you.
be read that way.
I'm letting you talk because you're my friend, and I want to hear what you have to say because I love
Yeah,
your
but
thoughts and
like,
opinions.
but
I'm not
like,
going to
what do you? What,
disagree. I'm not.
okay,
This
I'm
isn't a
not saying
debate.
it could be, but no.
I don't want it
But
to
like,
be a debate.
what are your
Debates are
thoughts about
stupid.
automation? Debates aren't stupid.
Debates are very stupid because
Oh my god.
the only point they have is for a third party. It's just like you're not going to convince another person like with a debate. It's just like because you're both if you're debating, you are very strongly held in that belief. And it's just like a debate's not going to convince the other person. It's for the benefit of somebody who's watching the debate. Hey, and it's like trying to sway them to one side or another. If you don't have that third person, why bother debating?
Um,
And
this is a very
before you say people are listening to this podcast, no, they aren't. Nobody listens to this.
okay. First of all, I wasn't gonna say that. Second of all, I was gonna say that's a very Twitter brain take, and it's like that's only possible if the only debates you watch are like ContraPoints fighting Blair White. Like, there's more to the form, in my personal opinion. And I enjoy debating my friends for the
Hey,
sake of debating
that's your opinion.
because
You can.
it's not my opinion. Because I think you can learn through arguing. Even if you are firmly held in your beliefs, you either learn how your beliefs differ from others, you learn that your beliefs are not completely right and you shift your beliefs, or you just learn something new. I think
That,
there's value in debate.
but then I don't debate. I just listen.
That's not. But then what are you saying? You're saying that like you're
I'm let like I just I
what about me? I don't get to learn anything?
No, you don't. I don't have anything to teach people except for this podcast. It's
That's
just like
so depressing.
I just
I'm
want
in
to listen to other people.
No, I need you. No. Like, you're not a talk show host. Okay? You're not Seth
I could
Meyers
be
who has
Jimmy
to sit
Fallon.
there. Who has to sit there and pretend that Shazam 2 looks great in theaters. Like, no, you're
Bring up
allowed to have
John
your
Oliver.
opinions.
Our third and final nominee is Pulcinella, directed by Giulio Giannini and Manuel Luzzati. This is the second and final nomination for Manuel Luzzati and the first and only nomination for Giulio Giannini, the two previously working together on The Thieving Magpie, though only Luzzati was nominated for that one. While their last film was inspired by an opera by Gioacchino Rossini, this one draws inspiration from the Commedia dell'arte and the stock character of the Pulcinella, though it also takes music from an unrelated opera, also by Rossini, Il Turco in Italia. I have no experience in this, but from what I can tell, a Pulcinella is almost a walking contradiction, fitting into any situation that requires it. He can be rich or poor, smart or dumb, servant or master, helpful or self-serving. And the one thing that's always constant is his cunning nature, solving any problem in his path. And while he only aims to help himself, also finds himself helping the unfortunate gain favor and taking the elites down a peg. Today's short, animated in the same cutout style as The Thieving Magpie, we see Pulcinella being berated by his wife and accosted by the police. After being locked out of his house by his wife, he sleeps on the roof and has a dream about starring in a ballet before monstrous versions of his wife and the police chase him throughout his surreal nightmare. Bean, what did you think of our final nominee?
I'm gonna let you answer first so that I can learn something before you shut down.
Okay. Uh, well, I really I I like this one. I like the imagery. I like the music. I think the two played together really well. Um, I I went into this like trying to like really pay attention to the story that was going on because I didn't remember much about this from my first watch. But then I realized that there was pretty much no story, and most of it is just about the imagery and the and stuff. As it's like I was a little disappointed on that front, but still, I think it is very visually stunning. And I like the way the characters like shape and move, and it's just like I think I think it's just very well made. It's like I don't really love this, I don't think, but it's just like I enjoyed the time I had watching it, and I thought it was well done. What about you, Bean?
Yes, very interesting. Thank you. Um, Similar thoughts. I liked it felt God bless me for bringing up Disney again. I'm so sorry. It felt like a Fantasia skit because it's like the classical music and just like it's all about the imagery and there's not much story. So it was like a vibe, you know?
Mhm.
I just kind of like sit there and I vibed. It also reminded me, have you seen that TikTok account with the woman in the 2D creature?
Yes, I love the fucking 2D creature.
Yeah, this was a movie about the 2D creatures. Like for real, like that was the vibe. I was like, yeah, these are 2D creatures. I kind of want to like flip one's hat backwards to give proof.
Reach into the second dimension and flip its hat and see how it reacts.
Yes.
Uh,
Um,
I really wanted to know like what people who don't know about the 2D creature are thinking right now, because I think that's something that people should really like. We should put that in schools to like help conceptualize like 4D space and whatever, because I think it's a very helpful imagery, but also it's very funny, and I think I really enjoy it.
Yeah. In the link to this, link the 2D creature hat getting flipped video so people understand.
If I remember, I will do that. I will put in the replies. I'll find the TikTok and put in replies of the tweet on Twitter account.
Yeah, this was a movie about 2D creatures. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these shorts are about 2D creatures. Like you could say
No,
John Henry and fucking I guess Frank Morris isn't a 2D creature. We don't see him in the movie. But a lot of these shorts are about 2D creatures.
well, technically they're 2D creatures, but the fact that there wasn't much rotation in the film, like they were either one side or another side. There was no like good concept of three-dimensional space. So it felt like you were looking at a drawing that was moving rather than something with like form, you know?
I
He
get
was
that.
either on your right or your left. Like he was a 2D creature. Like come
Yeah.
on now.
The cutout and I get that. The cutout animation style, like that's
Yeah,
how it comes across.
he was like Phineas and Ferb. Like he never looked at you head on.
Well, Phineas and Ferb does do the
I know,
like
but that was a joke. That was a joke. Come on,
it's
please
more
laugh.
like I feel like Bob's Burgers is kind of like that though, where it's just like a lot of times there is a very little definition of space in that show, which is one of the things that irks me about it. When I like the show itself, the movie much better, love that, but the show itself I find it hard to watch.
Yeah, what's this guy's name? Punicella?
uh, yeah, Pulcinella.
Pumicella? You're the
Oh,
Italian, I guess.
Pulcinella.
Pulcinella.
Yeah,
He was just like a little guy who wanted some sleep. Okay.
he's a little
And
guy whose wife hates him.
that's the thing. It's interesting you said that that was his wife because I really thought it was his mom.
I the thing is, when I watched this, I really thought it was his mom too. But when I was looking it up, I saw a lot of people like, I saw documentation that it was his wife, and so I had to change it in my script because I originally wrote down it was his mom.
Well, yes. I was gonna make a joke like why not both, but I don't know if your audience would be down for that. Um,
I've said worse things on here. They're fine. It just
uh, that was a joke. That was a joke. I'm sorry. And then
you're fine. These
I
people
think the
can take a
reason we
joke.
can't tell if it's his wife or his mom is because she kind of has like old lady energy, like hitting him with a broom. Like wives don't hit their husbands with brooms; they hit them with like guns. And then, and
Keep
then
in
on
mind,
top
this
of
is
that,
like meant to be like 16th, 15th, 17th century something, and so it's just like it. I think it. What I interpreted is just like Pulcinella. He's like very lazy. He does nothing all day, and like his wife is just like go out there, just fucking do something. Like stop being lazy, and
he
and
goes
so
pees on a statue, and then the cops are out.
yeah,
Those are cops, but what like if this is the 16th century, like what are these supposed to be? Like knights?
I don't know. Like I was kind of confused about that too. I wasn't sure if they were like cops or not. Like I just couldn't really tell. I just kind of assumed they were, but it's just like I don't know.
Don't
I
they have bigger issues than like harping on this guy?
yeah,
Like they're hypocrites. Like why doesn't his wife go run after them for not having anything better to do?
yeah, and it was like why
That
are
could
there
have solved his problem. He could have set his wife after the police and then just napped. That should have been the end of the short.
well,
Dude, I solved it.
well,
That would have been the moment that got it the best picture win, is if they did that instead.
put the wife against the cops, who wins? But then it's just
Yes.
but maybe like the wife would have been like, don't make me solve your problems. You do your own fucking thing.
Yeah, but she's like the angry wife. Like she doesn't have thoughts. She's just mad. That's how these things work.
Wow, you are belittling women. You
They
think that just because she's
belittled her
mean,
with this short. She didn't have any ambitions or goals. We thought he was her mom. We didn't even get any romantic tension between them. What do you mean?
well, this is like 16th, 17th century. There's not much romance in marriage at this point.
Which is I listen, if they showed that the bed was because that's the problem with having everything in the 2D second dimension with no like concept of depth. If they showed us how big the bed was, everyone would have known they were married. But no, we had to be like, oh, he's sleeping in a single. That's his mom. Instead of the naggy wife.
And I guess the point is just about like the nightmare that Pulcinella's having, and not necessarily the setup to that, where it's just like like we're just supposed to see like a scene of his wife being mad, a scene of the cops being angry at him, and it's just like, okay, now we get this character's woes in life. Now we'll make a nightmare. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare.
I mean, little homie just wanted to vibe. He just wanted to sleep and
He
have
just
a good
wants to,
time.
and I like the part where it's like it starts out as like oh, Pulcinella is like leading a little ballet with a bunch of versions of himself, but then it's just like then his wife and the cops start coming after him. It ruins his vibe.
You know what?
I guess that's the whole point. It's just like Pulcinella just wants the vibe, and then shit's coming after keeps coming after him. It keeps won't stop coming, and it's just like it sucks.
This would all be solved if he just had a little friend. It would be just like the Banshees in Inisherin. He like
He
wake
had
up.
Jenny the donkey.
No, like if he had a Colm, but if like Colm wasn't evil, like he would like wake up and his wife, mom, sister, whatever, would be like, get out of the house, lazy piece of I'm not gonna curse. And even though I've
You can
already
curse.
said worse,
You,
it
you
doesn't
can,
matter.
you could definitely
Anyways,
curse on here.
so his mom said, and then he would just go down to the
Fuck.
pub and hang out with his friend, and his friend would keep him from getting in trouble with the cops, and then he could go home. It would be just like, it would be perfect. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's because he imagines himself with himself. He wants to be alone, but no one can truly be alone in this world. You know?
Yeah,
We need homies.
there's
The real productivity is our connection with other people.
yeah, so it's either there's too many 2D creatures or not enough 2D creatures for this to like not have a conflict.
Yeah, he needs one more 2D creature that's not himself that he can vibe with.
If
I
you
don't know
were
why he hates his wife so much. Maybe he should get 2D creature to marriage counsel him. Like,
I think his wife just hates him because he like what it seems like is he just kind of like drinks all day and doesn't do much. Like maybe he has like a job as like a market seller or something. I don't know. But it's just like he doesn't do that. He just kind of gets drunk all day. Maybe he's the town drunk or something.
I
And
mean, then she should leave him
she should.
and make it really like the Banshees of Inisherin. Like, we're just describing.
I we need an animated short version of the Banshees of Inisherin. We should make Banshees of Inisherin with like DuckTales characters, or is it just like and submit that to the Academy, and it'll win Best Animated Short.
Yeah, I'm sure you know more about this than I do. I don't watch these animated shorts, but as you can tell, I have many hot ideas.
You have a lot of
That
opinions on these shorts you didn't care much about.
if like that's my secret cap. I have opinions about everything. Everything. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So, anyways, as you can see, I have many ideas. So if someone would like to fund me and also maybe put me in contact with people who go to Ivy League universities who would be willing to advocate for my work.
Get
I
beaten
didn't
up by
say
you.
anything. I didn't see anything about Ivy League universities. I love them as long as they're willing to help me in life. So that's that.
You're willing to betray everything you believe in just to be a little bit more famous.
I'd have an Oscar. And when I have my dreams about me doing ballet with the other versions of myself, because I don't have any friends, I'll be able to show them the Oscar.
Well, except this only gets a nomination. It doesn't win. You'd lose out to Frank Morris.
No, Frank Morris, if you're listening to this, you peaked when you were like 25. Okay? So I get
guess
off
he
my
could
high
listen
horse.
to this. He is alive, so maybe he is listening.
Please don't.
I'm going to find his contact information and send him this episode and tell him, please listen. My friend Bean has something to say to you about like how long have we been recording this? Like an hour? And an hour into this podcast, she has something she wants to say to you. And then
Okay, Frank Morris, if you're listening, I enjoyed your MoMA exhibit. I had nice things to say about it, okay? I feel like you made that early on in life, and I feel like you probably look back on it with fondness, but you also thought that perhaps you were a little juvenile at that point too, and you're proud of what you created at that moment, but you knew that there was more to it. And I don't think that you would be bad at me. I think you would be in agreement with me because we're both rational, intelligent individuals.
He would be like me and respect your opinion, even if he might not especially agree with it.
Everyone agrees with my opinions. So, Frank, if you're listening and if you have any contacts at the Academy, my contact information is in my Twitter bio. Please keep in touch.
Oh my god. If you were going to make, if you're going to try for an Oscar-winning animated short film, or really any, let's just keep it short though. What would this be the story that you'd want to tell?
I don't know.
Because I know you have a lot of stories.
I have a list.
But they're also like books, and it's like those don't turn into shorts well.
Yeah. I remember I had an idea, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so." No, that's a movie idea. I think I had a short idea. I'm not gonna give it to the internet. Actually, someone could steal it, and it's a good idea.
Okay, just
But
afterwards you can like tell me. You can DM me and be like, "This is my
no, you
idea."
already know it. But
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, you can
if I
remind
wanted,
me then.
But the thing is, I wouldn't make anything that's like too like actually means anything for the Academy because that's not what they reward. And also, if I wanted to win a best short category in the animations, I would not. I would wait for a year that a Disney short did not come out. I would just sit on it.
Those don't even win all that much anyway.
Okay.
At least nowadays.
Yeah. And I would pick something really simple that kind of tugged at the heartstrings. Isn't I don't know. And I'd probably do an adaptation because those have universal appeal.
Oh, apparently not with The Legend of John Henry.
Well, I'm just gonna hold my tongue. To be fair, I don't think Frank Film should have won. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah,
But I don't want to choose a winner, so.
Well, in a short amount of time, we are going to be ranking these, so we will know which one you think should have won. But
Girl, are you serious?
I warned you about this. I told you you're going to have to do a ranking.
You DM'd me at like midnight. I don't remember.
You could always go back to. Well, you have like a few minutes to build your ranking while we wrap up talking about Pulcinella.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what story I want to make. You can't put me on the spot like this, okay? I'm like a genius, but I'm not like that much of a genius. But it would be I don't know. For an Oscar, I'd have to think about it, but I can think of shorts that I want to make. I've always wanted to do like a holiday themed Romeo and Juliet adaptation. And I want to do a Christmas one. Because that would be so fun in animation. Yeah.
Like you could do Romeo and Juliet in like 30 minutes and make it still like emotionally powerful.
Yeah. And if you do it during Christmas time, that's like the extra layer. Like it'll really hit home. You could do all the pretty lights. You could do a lot of fun stuff in animation. Will it win an Oscar?
Christmas is popular.
Maybe not. But will it be worthy of an Oscar? If Frank Morris won, certainly.
Frank Morris, I hope you're listening.
No, not a diss. Frank Morris, I loved your MoMA exhibit.
I think Frank Film deserved its Oscar. It's not my favorite winner by any means, but it is a film that I am not like upset with about winning. I think like it's not a bad winner at all. It's a good
It's not a bad winner. It's not like I'm sitting here like, oh, someone else was robbed. Like, no, he put in a good effort. There was a good amount of craft in it. It was fine. It just, I don't know. I'm not gonna say any more. I've already offended too many people, like Frank Morris.
I don't think you've really offended anyone. Like you're saying like I'm going to be canceled if I say this, but it's just like no. Like first off, nobody listens. I repeat, nobody listens to this except like Like there's 2 or 3 people who listen weekly, and maybe like we'll probably get some KRGC members to listen to this. But outside of that,
Wait,
like
who listens? I want to shout them out.
Christoph and Owen and Ronaldo, they all pretty much listen weekly. But then like
Christoph, Owen, and Ronaldo. I really like those names. They're like spunky. Like you can make like a children's cartoon around those 3 names, and
it can
they'd
win
have
best
like
animated
little
short.
Yeah, they'd have like little spunky adventures together. It would be so fun. Thank you for listening and making a little spunky adventure out of this podcast. They hate me so much. I'm sorry.
No, I think they're all going to think that's very funny. I hope that when they listen to this, they at you on Twitter and be like, "Hey, thanks for the shout out. We love you."
I love you too, Christoph, Owen, and Ronaldo.
All right. So now that you've had time to think about it, we've talked about the 3 nominees, and we are going to rank them all. So, Bean, start us off with your number 3, and we're going to go back and forth. So, like your third, my third, your second, my second.
Okay. I'm going to rank them in terms of just like vibes because I felt like because usually when I do these or like rank anything, it's about my like emotional investment and my emotional impact that art had on me, but I felt nothing while watching all 3 of these. So, unfortunately, I only have vibes to go off of. And I can't analyze the writing very much because there was very little writing in all of these.
Frank film had twice as much writing as it had runtime.
It was a lot. Okay. You think you're a funny guy.
I am very
Okay.
funny. Legend of John Henry, that had a lot of lyrics and
It
stuff.
had a lot of lyrics. But when I think about writing, do I really have to go on this tangent?
No, you don't have to. You kind of brought in yourself.
Okay.
I just
Well,
asked you what you would rank third in this lineup.
anyways, John Henry's 30.
Okay.
I think just because it made me frustrated. I can't tell why I was so frustrated. It just made me frustrated. That's the only reason it's going third.
I think it's very funny that like even though like one of these is going to end up being third, just know that I liked my third place more than Bean liked her first place. So my third place is Pulcinella because I think it is very visually vibrant. I really enjoyed looking at it, but also it didn't like move me as much as I wanted to. But still, I had a fun time. Your number 2, Bean.
Pulcinella. I know I have it ranked. I forgot my rankings on Letterboxd, but this might not be my highest ranked, but I just think that there was like it was just vibes, you know?
Yeah, you had I did look at your ratings beforehand. You had Pulcinella at 3.5 and the other 2 at 3 stars. So this is an upset. It's just like wow, you put it at
Yeah,
number 2.
sorry. Well, it was because it's just vibes, you know? I was like, oh, cool little dude. Like I met it where it was. I met it where it was and was at 3.5. So the vibes.
All right. My number 2 is Frank film because I like it's kind of similar to Pulcinella where it's just like I really dug the visual style. I thought it was amazing to watch, but at the same time, it's just like it's not very deep that much, at least to my reading of it. Maybe there's layers to it that I'm not seeing, but and also I found the double narration a bit unpleasant to listen to. So that kind of drops it down a little bit, but it's still good movie. I enjoy it. Number 1 being
There's only one left.
I know.
I guess it's Frank film. Frank Morris, if you're still listening and this hasn't given you a heart attack and killed you at your old age, congratulations.
I would feel so bad if I got an old animator to listen to my podcast talking about one of their short films and then they died shortly after. It's just like fuck.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you're still alive. I'm so sorry. But
I
also, I think okay, I like the visuals. Points out for going to Yale, but the thing is, at least there were thoughts there for me to have thoughts about, even if they weren't particularly well developed. And I think that alone is probably why it's number 1. I felt like the other ones were like vibes. Like the reason it won over Pulcinella is because Pulcinella had nothing to say. However you say that movie, but this one at least had something to say, even if it wasn't very smart, or I didn't want to say not very smart, but not very deep.
Yeah.
At least had something to say.
I think it's kind of interesting to think about why Frank film actually won in this category, because it's like it's not something the Academy would normally go for, because it is a bit, it's not story driven at all. It doesn't have any slapstick or anything. It's a lot more like experimental than anything else the Academy has ever gone for. But also, like we were saying before, I think it is because it is not very deep. That's why the Academy was able to connect to it. It's just like, wow, I understood an experimental film. That means this is great. And
I mean, if the experimental film just tells you what it's supposed to be while you're watching it, I guess
exactly.
I guess though.
That's how they
just
can
the universal feeling of being 20 and being a filmmaker, knowing you like things, but not why you like them. Like, okay.
And also maybe the visual style had something to do with it, because it is an it's an impressive visual feat. And
yes.
it's like they took best animation literally, instead of like, just the best movie that happens to be animated.
Animation is cinema.
And animation is cinema. It's not children's things.
Guillermo del Toro, if you're listening, and have the connections
please
at
listen.
the Academy.
Please fund my experimental short film. I don't know. I don't have an experimental short film.
Neither do I. What would you make your experimental short film on?
An experimental specifically short film. I don't know. I'm not very into experimental stuff. I don't like. I respect it a lot, but it's also I'm a very I love stories. I want to tell stories. I think stories are very fun. And it's just like I do have a lot of short film ideas. I have a lot of feature film ideas. I have a feature film screenplay that I'm waiting for you to read.
Did you have to tell everybody about that?
Yes.
Okay.
No one's listening again, except for those three people.
Yeah.
And even then, I doubt they're not going to make it this far anyway.
Okay.
Maybe
anyways,
who knows?
Let me defend. I didn't put it in my planner yet. Okay, I forgot because you sent it late at night, and I only saw it early morning. So I didn't get if it doesn't go in my planner, it doesn't get done. And then also, it usually takes me months to get to things. Also, I'm in the middle of studying for my PE right now, and doing NaNoWriMo. So
it's
literally,
April.
Yeah, but there's Camp NaNoWriMo, which is in April and then again in July, where you get to set your own limits. Okay. So I decided to do it. So like I'm on a very strict regimen with my time right now. Don't look at how many movies I've been logging on Letterboxd. That's none of your business. But like
it was funny seeing, like, I did go through, like, when I was looking at it, I saw Pulcinella, Disenchanted, and then the other two shorts.
Disenchanted was a mistake. I was trying to change the poster and then I accidentally logged it again. I did not watch Disenchanted. I did watch The Black Legion last night though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, my number one is The Legend of John Henry, and it's one of my favorite nominees in this category ever.
I'm glad you loved it so much.
I'm
happy for you that you were able to connect to a piece of film. It was funky. Positive. Tone indicator positive.
Before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Bean, or anything you'd like to promote?
Okay, so if you haven't turned this off by now because the sound of my voice, and you would somehow want to listen to more of the sound of my voice, but in written form, I have a blog. I'm gonna start with the blog. And you can find it on my Twitter, and I have it linked. It's existing ironically at WordPress.com. You can follow me on Instagram at existing ironically. Do I want to plug my TikTok? Probably not. No, you're gonna have to find that one on your own, fellas. My Twitter's Beabean, Beya Bean. And I write for Discussing Film, one of the most obnoxious film update accounts in the world, but less obnoxious because when I bless them with my presence and I write for them, it's good. I mean,
until you look at the replies, because everybody
don't look at the replies. Oh my God. I've been bullied to death on there. Like literally I had to leave Twitter because of like PTSD. Like I know people complain about discussing film replies, but it's like it's so different when you're on the receiving end of them. And you will literally spend like because I review a lot of TV shows more than like other people do. When you spend literally like hours watching a TV show, then hours writing the review, and then based on how the tweet is worded, people get upset. And people don't click on the review and people don't read it. They just get mad at you. And it's very frustrating. And like, I like my brain chemistry is rewired. Like, the way I talk is different because I'm so used to people like misinterpreting or just jumping to conclusions and like attacking me for literally nothing. When my writing, I always expand my point. Here's the thing, I also inflate my scores. My 4-star is not most people 4-star. My 3.5 star is not most people 3.5 stars. My reviews are never wrong. Like, my reviews are always perfect. Okay. You can follow me on Goodreads. I have an audience there. That'll probably be linked to my Twitter. And yeah, I think that's all I have to plug.
All right.
Follow me on Letterboxd. Be a bean.
Well, thank you, Bean, for coming on the show. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.